Hello ladies! Today we're reading Psalm 23 still, and we're on another really popular verse. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. And the first thing I wrote in my devotions today is a question I wanted to pose to you as well, and that's, what do you fear? So stop today and think through that. In fact, this morning I made a list of things that I fear. Some of the things at the very top of the list were like losing a child or losing my spouse. Maybe sickness is something that you fear. There were other very personal fears in my life that are very real today to me. What do you fear? And the truth of the matter is, fear is a very real part of the human existence, right? We fear lots of things, even little things like bugs, like maybe you fear a spider in your house, to very big things like we fear death. A lot of us fear death, and maybe you have either personally encountered death, or you've sat with a family member who has encountered or succumbed to death. You guys know I have loved reading Charles Spurgeon's commentary on Psalm 23, so as much as I want to give you some variety, I can't help it. Today's was so good. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but Spurgeon mentions that Christ has already gotten the victory over death, and so this is why the valley of the shadow of death specifically is called the shadow of death. And he mentions the shadow of a dog cannot bite, the shadow of a man cannot murder. There's all these different things where shadows can be very fearful. I think through when I was a kid and I would be in a dark room and I thought I saw something. Do you guys remember those times? Maybe even now, like if you're in your house by yourself, you think you like hear something or see something. Shadows can be very fearful, but a shadow cannot hurt us. And he applies that so beautifully to remind us that Christ has already conquered death, and so the biggest thing we could fear, which I think for most people would be death, the biggest thing we could fear, the biggest trial we could go through, Christ has already walked through that. And so what we are experiencing today, whatever you're fearing or whatever trial you're walking through, just like Spurgeon said, it's merely a shadow. What a powerful thing to remember. Something else that really stood out to me today was noting the difference of pronoun usage on this verse. So before, you would hear David say things like, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. But when we get to this verse, he starts changing to a direct conversation with God. It's no longer he. It's not we're talking about him. We're talking to him. So in this verse, we see him say, even though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. And that implies a really intimate conversation that David's having right there with the Lord. Don't forget that the passage right before Psalm 23 was a passage of affliction and of trial. So David has already walked through a valley quite recently in his life. So he's remembering that God was with him through each thing. And so because Christ has already conquered death for us, because Christ has already walked this earth, he can guide each step of the way, not even just in a I'm here with you type way, but in a way where he can say, oh, I've already done this part, and here's how it's going to go. Or I already know how to navigate this specific part of the path or this valley. There's a big difference. If you've been in a relationship or in a friendship where one person can say they empathize, they haven't walked through it, but they can encourage you, that's always helpful. But someone who can sympathize and who can say, I have walked through this and this is how you're going to get through it and I'm going to help you get through it. Completely different way of thinking when we walk through trials. That is just immeasurable how helpful it is. So today, whatever thing you fear, maybe your list is full of things, maybe your list is just one thing, but all those things, we can experience victory through it because Christ has already walked that path through us. So all we're fearing right now, merely a shadow. Really cool idea. I can't wait to hear what you guys are observing and listening and learning as well.